I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
I think you have open forum.
What's he saying? What is she saying? Okay. So I have a list of names for open forum. The first name is Kristen Kane.
Hi, Kristen Kane, 2029 Crandall Road. We are now less than 1 month from the school year ending, 21 school days to be exact, and a decision has not been made on what will happen to our children in the fall. We as parents have been stressed about Fort Barton closing and shifting our children to different schools since it was first brought up in March. However, our hands have been tied waiting for the school department to give the town council the information they needed and for both committees to come together to figure this out. I'm asking the school committee and town council to please put their differences aside and work together to come up with a budget amount and for the school department to go back and build that budget from the bottom up. My husband and I are both Ranger parents who purchased our home where we did so our children could attend Ranger. Our house is 20 minutes from Pecasset School. My children should not have to attend school on the complete opposite side of town. Fourth graders should not be attending middle school and should be able to finish out their elementary school years at their elementary school. Having fifth graders at the middle school is pushing it, in my opinion. You can say our fourth graders will be separate from grades 5 through 8, but they will not. Anyone who attended Tiverton Middle School or has older children at the middle school knows you have to walk through the corridors to the back of the school to attend gym, art, music, lunch, etc. Fourth grade would be using the same bathrooms as the older kids if they are in the back of the school for a class or lunch. There's no way to keep fourth grade from the older students. Has any thought been given to the school nurse, who will now have an extra 100 give or take students to take care of or take care for? As far as staggered start times to school, parents work and cannot and should not be driving their children around town all morning and afternoon to get to and from school. You will be asking some of these parents to have their elementary children at 3 different schools. This is just unacceptable. Our school's parent-teacher organizations will dissolve. Having PTOs in the relationship each PTO group has with their teachers in school is extremely important. Ranger School, through fundraising over the past few years, installed a $32,000 sunshade last year. Fort Barton installed a $13,000 playground. These types of fundraisers for each school to have improvements will no longer be here. Parents are not going to be fundraising for 2 or 3 different schools. There will be at least 275 houses built on Fish Road in the very near future. How do you justify closing a school? We know there will be some children in those houses that will attend Tiverton schools. And as mentioned, maybe we could add on to Ranger in the future, but how does it make sense to close a school and then to spend money and add on to another school? Why are only teachers receiving layoffs and not admin? Lastly, I believe closing a school should be a town vote and not a committee vote, since taxpayers will still be paying on the bond that Fort Barton has. And one more thing that's not related, the shot put at Ranger School was supposed to be completed on May 4th, and it got changed to May 12th. It's still not completed, and the field is a mess for the Ranger students. So if you have a chance to walk over to the field or drive by to take a look, I suggest doing so, just because it's a lot of construction right now.
Melissa Medeiros.
Hi. Could I just ask, when people come up, you have to introduce your name, your address, and then 3 minutes. Thank you.
And turn the microphone on first. Okay. Melissa Medeiros, 823 Crandall Road. I am a parent of a 5th grader at the middle school and a 2nd grader at Ranger. I've been an educator in Massachusetts for 16 years. As both a parent and a teacher, I'm very impressed and grateful for the education my children have received in Tiverton schools. However, if you decide to close Fort Barton and shift all these students around without any solid plan, it will fundamentally change the quality of education in Tiverton. This kind of restructuring requires thoughtfulness and careful planning that just isn't happening at this point. The scariest part of this plan is the thought of moving fourth graders to the middle school. I teach at a 6th through 8th grade middle school in Massachusetts, so I know firsthand what's happening in the schools and what students are exposed to at this age. When students come to middle school, peer influence becomes bigger than adult influence. 9-year-olds are not developmentally ready for that influence shift. We keep being told they'll be separated, insulated, but the truth is 5th graders at Tiverton Middle do see older students throughout their day, and it's just human nature for younger students to look up to older ones. It would also be very odd to expect our 4th graders to be in a school setting with absolutely no sense of community or involvement. There's a significant difference between how middle schoolers carry themselves versus elementary school students. For example, how they dress, how they speak to each other in the hallways. They'd also be exposed to other behavior that starts in middle school: vaping, fighting, inappropriate language and behavior. It should be a priority to keep our students young and naive for as long as possible and not expose them to content that's beyond their current maturity level. If you've never actually worked in a middle school, you might think these things can be controlled, but they can't. They will be exposed to things they shouldn't be, and we should all be concerned about that. I know I've said a lot of things that you've heard before, but I think it's important for you to know that there are a lot of us that feel this way, even if we may be being represented by a smaller, more vocal group of parents. Our children deserve more. They deserve a quality education. They deserve to stay young for as long as they can. Please meet with the town council to explain the budget and try to get 4% before closing a school. Thank you.
Shannon McNamara.
Good evening, Shannon McNamara, 65 East Mellow Drive. We're really here to discuss the fate of elementary education in our town, and with that said, we can't overlook the changes that are coming to Tiverton. We have a substantial affordable housing development coming to Fish Road. This has been detailed in various articles, including one in the Secaucus Times. With this coming, it's crucial to recognize a pivotal role that Fort Barton is going to play in our community's fabric, and why closing it would be a grave error. Amidst this influx of new residents, maintaining Fort Barton is crucial for preserving the quality of education in our town. If our population grows, so too will the demand for educational facilities. Closing Fort Barton would place an undue burden on our remaining 2 elementary schools, potentially compromising the learning environment for all students. There is the argument that closing Fort Barton is a necessary sacrifice in the face of declining enrollment and budget issues. But I implore you to consider the long-term consequences of such a decision. There's a very real possibility of 110 to 385 new students, a statistic that was put forth by the superintendent's office. So yes, the new homes are coming, but there are some ready-to-go numbers that we should also be discussing right now. As of my count tonight, 26 single-family homes in residential neighborhoods are on the market. 12 single-family homes were sold and closed during the month of April. I also took the time to call Town Hall and ask the Building and Zoning Department how many new homes are in the process of being built in town. And I was told between a dozen and 15 that are currently happening. Now, I will say we do have a temporary moratorium on new permits. And once it hits 4 more, we are capped until infrastructure can be assessed. But if you want to look, these are all the ones that might be, and again, might be coming down the pike. The Bourne Mills has 48 units currently, with roughly 30 to 40 children in the Tiverton public school system. And there will be 59 new units in the Solara development that will be rented out by this summer. Again, I gave them a call. There will be 8 studio, 16 one-bedrooms, but 39 two-bedroom apartments. Also, I want to say, don't discount the multiple children won't be in a 2-bedroom apartment, especially in this economy and with the price of housing in our area. I took the time to speak with realtors who work in the area, and there are families looking, and these families want great schools. Something I know for a fact our teachers here in Tiverton can give them. We do not need to prepare for the possibility of new students with new hires, textbooks, pencils, but we cannot close a building with this coming down the pike. For once, I implore us to put enough gas in the car to get us to the highway, not just to the end of the street. We have the chance to embrace growth while preserving the institutions that define us. With all that being said, we still have not gotten some of the basic answers to some of our questions. What will the cost be to bus students out of their neighborhood into schools further away? What will the cost be to pick up multiple children from one house and then bring them to multiple elementary schools? What will the cost be to retrofit Ranger with more bathrooms in the classrooms? Or, in lieu of doing that, what is the plan for classroom coverage? Because by law, children in kindergarten must be walked to a bathroom. What will it cost to bring playground equipment to the middle school? We've seen a lot of presentations.
Shannon, you're over 3 minutes.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Riley Kilmer.
Hi, my name is Riley Kilmer. I'm a resident of 50 Tower Hill Road. And I'm the parent of 3 children, one of whom is a kindergartner in Ranger School. And I have 2 other children that I had hoped to go through the Tiverton school system. I'm not from the area originally, but I have always been a staunch advocate of public education over private. My wife is a teacher in Fall River, and my mother was a teacher in public school for approximately 40 years. So, however, given the current discussions over the closure of Fort Barton and the proposed reorganization of the Tiverton School Committee, I am forced to regretfully consider having to take my kids out of public school and put them into private school. Primarily, I think one of the big issues that I have is if Fort Barton is closed, the proposed reorganization and sending of children across town to different schools, and particularly putting children into the fourth graders into the middle school setting is not appropriate. So I really hope that to the extent that Fort Barton is closed, that you all do consider changing that reorganization structure and keeping fourth graders particularly out of the middle school. As I've emailed you all before, and I think as I've said, I think that cuts to administrative positions and salary decreases, not merely reductions in salary increases, technology cuts, training, consulting cuts should be considered over the closure of Fort Barton and reorganization of the schools. And so this has been said before, while some of these positions might be optimal in ideal conditions, unfortunately that's not the circumstance that we're in currently, and so I think those cuts do need to be considered. I have been in contact with the town council, and I do advocate, and I will continue to advocate for them to increase funding to the extent that they can. But I do hope, as I said before, that everyone will work together. I do know that the town council had a budget meeting, I believe it was last Saturday, and a lot of you were unable to attend. But I do hope that, and I hope to hear tonight, that you all are continuing to are working with the town council and trying to come to some sort of resolution. And move forward and not have to go through the reorganization process and the closure of Fort Barton. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Did you second it?
No, I didn't.
I'm sorry.
I would like to pull the minutes from the May 8th meeting for further review and make a motion to approve the remaining portion of the consent agenda.
I'll second Diane's motion.
Now, all in favor? Oh. The next item on the agenda is old business.
Wait, we pulled the minutes.
Do you
Approve
want-
homeschool requests.
We pulled the minutes.
Oh, you can say that. I didn't hear what she said.
Uh-huh.
I don't have anything on to.
So Diane pulled the minutes,
did,
and unless anyone objects, I have some changes as well. I assume that's why you pulled them.
I do.
Would it be possible just to continue that to the next meeting? Because I wasn't able to get through all of it. So if no one has any objection, I'd like to just continue those minutes to the next meeting.
I have no objections to that.
I have no objection.
No objection.
Okay, so we're okay that now? Okay, move on to number 6, old business, approve
Oh, wait.
homeschool requests
Yeah.
for 23, 24. Ms. Kraeger?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
You have in your packet there families who have requested for their children to be homeschooled. The families who have requested that have provided us plans that meet requirements under Rhode Island general laws and our homeschooling policy as well. So I ask that you approve the homeschooling requests.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor? The next item on the agenda, FY25 budget update. Dr. Sanchioni?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to bring a document up on the screen. I believe you have it in your packet. Get that to Elaine. All right, so we want to update you where we currently stand with the budget. I know there's been a lot of work and conversation regarding this. I'm not going to go through all the figures on there. Everyone's familiar with FY24, but as we went into FY25, preparing for next year, the school committee had voted a budget of $34,134,474, and we were working off that number. That was a 4% increase from the town. And so we started to address the deficit based upon that number. At a previous meeting, you approved cuts to the expense accounts of $867,014. You approved layoffs of 11 personnel with the 1.1 million number there, and we were working on the remaining deficit there. Taking into account the potential of using the Medicaid and fund balance that's still at your disposal, the number at the bottom, the 1.3 million, we looked at it as we had 1.5 million to go, what I've highlighted in yellow there. And tonight, we want to present to you a way to cut our budget even more to make that deficit. It requires another 12.5 positions and some cuts to expenses and the bringing back of a special ed program and so forth. With that being said, again, that was based upon a 4% budget. So tonight, we could have balanced based upon that budget if in fact you took the recommendations of the cut at 1.5 million. However, at a 2% budget, we still have 546,872. We're not prepared to address that deficit. We have a lot of work to do to consider that, and we need some legal advice and need to work with the school committee on your direction of how to go there. At this point, cutting 23.5 staff members is detrimental to the education of our students, needless to say. So we look forward to dialoguing with you how to close this remaining deficit. That's the update. That's where we stand right now.
Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Sanchioni. So in understanding 2%, which has been authorized by the town council and not 4%, which all the budgets have, could you maybe touch on, without using any names or anything, what sort of more cuts would need to happen? Like
To
what they
address-
would affect, to address to get down to another 500,000 to 2%? Is there a way to say that without?
Yeah, I think once you see the cuts for the 12.5 positions, you're going to see that we pretty much have eliminated a lot of SEL staff, a lot of our specialists. The middle school has revamped their entire schedule that allowed us to cut a few more teachers from that facility. The high school has done the same. We're at a tough position regarding additional personnel reductions. So I think, again, we got to talk with our attorney and see what direction we can go in. It's just, again, if it's personnel, it's personnel, and we're going to have to work with the union and our administrators to come up with positions that would, meet that level of.
That number budgeting there also includes us using our fund balance?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
And I know you haven't authorized us to do that. I remain hopeful that we will, because further cuts is not good for our educational system.
So using the fund balance, this number would be keeping for Barton open? Is that what this number gets us to?
Yes, well, it's your ultimate decision compared to the personnel we have to lay off, but yes, this would balance our budget all on the expense of personnel.
Okay. So keeping the school open, cutting an additional 12 and a half positions, using all the money we have to zero, and we'd still be $500,000 in some short. That's where,
Correct.
that's a summary of where we're
Yeah,
at.
that's well
All right.
said. That's, yeah, that's what we're
So
looking
for
at.
everyone sitting here, I think we understand that. That's what we're hearing this week. So now you're hearing this, and I'll let my peers speak. I don't want to take all their time, but I know that this is a very controversial subject, right? Everyone has an opinion on how this should go. But in the end, I think we've been tasked with balancing a budget. It's what we have to do legally. And we're still $500,000 or more short. It's a very, very hard pill to swallow. Keeping a school open, cutting over 20-something positions total.
Well,
between the
23
two.
now, we got to go to the 546.
That's what I mean.
You're-
So almost 24 positions cut, keeping the school open, using your fund balance to zero. Be like asking everyone here to empty out your bank account to zero, and you're still short. So that's where my head's at, and thank you for letting me ask those questions. Appreciate the time.
Mrs. Bonwitz, do you have something?
Dr. Sanchioni, please clarify for me. We enacted layoffs at our last meeting. You proposed cutting $867,000 in expenses. We're going to be considering additional layoffs this evening. Are you telling us that you are now recommending we not close that school as part of this plan?
I'm telling you, there's 546,000 to go, and I'm not sure where to make that cut from. I think you have to leave everything on the table. I don't know.
Okay.
Mrs. Polish?
Okay, so I'm just doing the math for myself. So we had 2,009,443, which leaves us 2,125,747 to cut. You're, again, assuming 1,328,568
6.8.
in fund balance, which I think several members of your board have serious concerns about and are not necessarily going to support because we are one boiler, one special ed student away from not having money. But we'll, I understand what you're saying. But, we are going to need to have that debate and we're going to have to eventually vote and see, what the majority want to do. I think to your point, everything still has to be on the table. I mean, 2,125,747. I mean, that's with the 546.
With the 5, yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. I don't have anything else right now.
I have nothing. Dr. Sanchioni, do you have anything?
Nope, that was the update on the FY25 budget.
Hi, Jordan Riley, 13 Fieldstone Lane. I just had a quick question about the cuts. It seems like over the past few weeks, we've been looking mostly at teachers and aides and support specialists. Have we looked into multiple other areas in the budget that we've actually called attention to, like tech, which seems to be super heavy?
We've looked at everything. We'll continue to look.
Can you
at everything.
elaborate?
We look at everything. We look at every single line item. We'll
On
continue
the
to
tech,
look at everything.
can you elaborate on some of the lines that you looked at?
Everything. Literally go through every single line every time we talk.
So there wasn't a single-
We
so
just
there-
looked at budget and actual in our finance subcommittee meeting. We looked at every single, is there any place there? We go back to Amy and Peter. I mean, we
So were there any
understand-
specifics in tech that-
We understand, Jordan, people are making recommendations, and we are looking at them. But, you know,
Yeah.
as far as, you know, we're trying to work with those recommendations and also trying to work with what we understand
Yeah, sure,
the
understood.
education system needs. So it is a balance.
Understood. I haven't seen a lot in the way of tech cuts or cuts in other areas of spending outside
May
of
I?
staff layoffs.
Yeah,
May I
sure,
say something?
sure.
So I believe at the last meeting or the meeting before, we identified everything that was in the 867,000 cuts, and that included well over $100,000 in technology cuts. So that is identified.
Yeah, I
in
think
the
that
packet.
came from the request that we sent over.
No, that was presented at a school committee meeting. I'm not sure if
Okay.
it was the last one or the one before.
One before,
So
yeah.
we have done that, and I can tell you personally, it's well over $100,000.
Okay, so things like, no, totally, and I respect that. So things like program spending, and there's just been a lot that's been brought to our attention over recent weeks. Areas that have been brought to our attention to look at. So it's our due diligence to bring it to you
So
and
we
say, yeah.
We have heard what you said, so you asked us to reduce substitutes, we did. You asked us to reduce maintenance, we did. That's all part of the 867,000. So I'd like to make it clear that what you've recommended has not fallen on deaf ears, and we in fact have employed some of those suggestions as part of the $867,000 additional cuts.
Okay, and then, perfect. So now, upper admin, we have addressed a few positions that we feel have been added in recent years, and given the reduction in enrollment, it may make sense to look at some of those upper admin positions in addition to some of the teacher layoffs that have taken place over the past few weeks. We just haven't seen much of a change in that regard. And those are some of our top pay. So I think if I can make a suggestion, I think I would start to look there, as opposed to some of the areas that directly affect our children, like aides and teachers on a daily basis. So that's it.
Thank you.
Jennifer Jocelyn, 123 Russell Drive. So kind of like what Jordan was saying, my concern is admin, full-time admin. When we have looked at cuts, I've been coming to meetings since 2011. I've seen more positions go, come back. We're always kind of on repeat with the budget cycle. What we're not, we've talked about reduction in students, we've talked about enrollment numbers going down, but our admin has grown. If we're servicing less students, we're not talking about cutting any positions to 3/4, half-time. We currently have a full-time athletic director who, I have to say too, I have been on the athletic director, but all of the presentations that have been made, he has not attended a meeting. He has not attended a meeting. He has not advocated for his programs. He had a coach come and advocate for his job. But he did not come and advocate for his kids and his programs. As a middle school parent, I have not seen him at a middle school event. And my question is, do we need this to be full-time? Can it be 3/4? Can it be half? We currently have a position open for a secretary for our high school assistant principal. I'm not sure if at this time it's more important to have a secretarial position or to have a reading specialist. I think you really need to evaluate what is being taken out of the classroom and what is being kept to keep the machine running. Because if we don't have my son's going into high school, if I don't have guidance, I don't have reading specialists, I don't have emotional support staff, if we're not serving the students that are showing up every day, that's our job. That's the first and foremost. Everything should stay in the classroom and everything else should be reevaluated. Whether positions need to be half-time, 3/4 time, including maintenance directors, maintenance positions, those may be cuts that we need to come because we need to directly impact our students, especially coming out of COVID with all the learning problems that they currently have. There's no point of, if we don't have anything in the classroom, there's not point of having the classroom.
Hi, Shannon McNamara. So my question is more along the lines of how we're scheduling classes. I mean, have we looked at possibly, I know that AP had come up, and I think AP programs especially, in this college environment are extremely important, and I would hate to see the high schoolers lose that. But are we looking at how we're scheduling those classes where, maybe we look at it to be scheduled more along the lines of how colleges do it, where AP English is, one semester, AP History another, even AP Art a different semester, so that, or quarters. So that way we can still have the AP classes, but we don't have as many running all the time, and we have more students in each class as opposed to, I've heard that the enrollment can tend to be low, and maybe that can save us some dollars as well without the students losing their services there. So that was just my suggestion.
Hi, Corey Marchand, 24 Christina Drive. You know how I feel about Fort Barton and about maintaining 3 elementary schools. I think I've spoken enough that you know where I stand on that. I really do believe that right now, the biggest focus for our attention needs to be on analyzing the past spending to figure out where we went wrong, because I don't think this is just a revenue problem. I think it's also a spending problem, and I think we need to continue to look back in order to look forward. I believe we need a stronger plan for checks and balances within our school district and within the finance department. And number one, and I think the biggest focus needs to be on working with the town and the state to secure the necessary funds to provide for our children what they need here in Tiverton to get the best education possible. That should be the primary focus, getting that 4%. And that means, to a certain extent, answering whatever question they have. We need to show them everything, answer every question, sit at that round table and figure that out, because I do believe they'll give you the 4%. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, but I think that they have questions, and I think that we just need to make that happen. So I don't understand how this scheduling problem has lasted weeks, but I think that that is top priority. We need to show them and share with them whatever they need so that they're comfortable giving the 4%, because that will make all the difference for us. Thank you.
So I just want to quick speak to the admin, because I know that's been a question. So I've actually been digging into it and looking at other schools that are our size. Narragansett, 11 admin. Exeter West Greenwich, 11. North Smithfield, 10. Tiverton, 11. Burrillville, 13, wow. Portsmouth 15. So the only point being that, we are looking at this. We are trying to see we are looking at this. Let me finish, and then if you want to talk, please come up, because we do want to hear you. But try not to interrupt us when we're taking our time at the mic. Thank you. So I wanted to look at it just to see where we, even in the realm, were we way up here or whatever. And to your points, that we're not. We are running very similar to other schools that have very similar sizes, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't go back and address those. That we're not, it's not outrageous, it's not out of the, realm of where we should be, but we need to look to see, maybe we can be at 9. So like I said, I started doing it because many of you did ask, and I wanted to see, because if it was, we were at 15 and other schools the same size were 11, that's easy. But even where we're within reason, I do think you're right. We need to go back and look, and we will. I will say, and I don't know if this is a good time to bring it up, that the council has asked for, as long as we're on the budget, they have asked for either a meeting on the 21st or the June 3rd. Do either one of those dates work for,
We prefer the 21st, sooner the better.
should we make both available, just in case there's follow-up questions, unless you guys can't do both?
No, but it just, we have a June 1st deadline, so.
Oh,
For layoffs?
layoffs. Okay, so definitely May 21st, but potentially June 3rd, knowing, I mean, you know what, we may have to give, I mean, we always can be in the position of giving more layoffs than we need and calling people back. We hate to do that. I understand that's stressful, but
I'm available on the 21st.
21st, Elaine?
21st.
Diane?
I'm available.
I can do either. So you want to
Want me to communicate with them on the 21st? Sure.
the 21st, because to your point, sooner
Yep.
rather than later. All right. And I want to just thank the council and Mr. Burke for bringing those dates forward.
Anyone else have any questions or comments?
I know that there was talk that we were going to vote this evening. I don't know how that started, but it was untrue, and I had to confirm that with multiple people today. When we do make a decision, we will make it very clear on our agenda exactly what we plan to do at a certain session. I'm sorry? Oh, okay, sorry. We will make it very clear on the meeting that we plan to take our vote. That will be very clear per our agenda. We had no intention of voting any kind of decision tonight. We're not anywhere near the point where we can make a final decision together. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Sally Black, 64 Broadview Drive. I tried to sit there and not talk, but I just can't. I tried my best. I said, don't say anything, but here I am, because I hardly can get out, so I have to say what I can while I can get out. I attended the town council meeting Saturday. It's usually a huge meeting when we discuss the budget and vote on the budget. And we work together. We have liaisons back and forth and everything. We have done that, and that works out. I got a call in the morning. They said, we have bad news. I said, what is it? They said, the budget committee voted for $1 more. And I said, no. I mean, the budget committee recommends, after they go through, they're the watchkeeper of the funds. They look at all sides and then decide. Mike Dakotas was on there. We had some battles, but we worked it out. So I said, so what are we going to do? And they said, well, we're going to have to discuss everything, but usually they take the budget committee's recommendation. And since the town council is now the appropriating authority in the town, not the financial town meeting or the financial town referendum, I stood up and I said to them, we might not get along. I don't care who likes who. It does not matter. This is about the town, the whole town, police, fire, schools. And I said, we all know one thing is true. $1 more will cripple us. We've gone through it in the past. You people sitting there have gone through it with me, and it's impossible. One time, the teachers took 0 for 3 years in a row after we all sat together, just to make it. And the superintendent had 3% in his contract, and he said, I won't take it. I'll go with the teachers and take nothing. That's what it took for us to survive. I said, please do not give. I sat there and listened. I've been doing this a long time. You were there, most of the day, it was going to be $1 more. By people's comments, I'm counting the votes as they talk. It's going to be 3-3, it's going to be 3-3, it's going to be 4-2 by the time. And so finally, they voted. And I know you're disappointed in the 2, and I am too, but $1 more was what was going to come out that day. And I'm glad we reached at least to the 2 and hope we can go forward. So I know you're all working hard and it's difficult, so thank you. Thank you very much.
I do want to address the unfortunate budget committee vote. One of my disappointments was both reading and listening to the comments that they were confused with the numbers. And we appeared twice before them. We had no invitation to come back. We had no follow-up questions.
Correct.
We do understand that it's a complicated budget, and we do understand, that if you only see it once a year. So I was just really disappointed that to hear that the Budget Committee gave us $1 because they simply didn't understand the budget when we weren't invited back, we weren't given follow-up questions, we weren't, that we're happy to give. I mean, we'll meet as many times as, they would have wanted to meet with us. And I understand they were under a time constraint, but that was disappointing to me. It was very similar to last year. There was no vote. They basically just said they weren't going to vote, and that's just, really disappointing because we would have made ourselves available as many times as we would have needed, and I was disappointed to Mrs. Black's point. I was disappointed in the $1 as well.
I would like to quickly add that during this process, I never received any communication from anyone on the Budget Committee, an email or phone call, or nothing. So I find it hard to just say they don't know what's going on. I mean, my number is pretty public. My email is public. I was on the Budget Committee. No one reached out, asked, so.
Jackie Souza, 53 Beach Ave. I just want to follow up with you, Diane. You were questioning why people thought there was a vote. The agenda had said possible vote, so I just wanted to make that, just so you weren't.
No,
That's why people were asking about it.
I absolutely understand. But if you look at our agendas,
They always say that.
every agenda item always says possible vote.
I think people are just really nervous now about it, so
I get
that's.
it. I really do. I really do.
So I just bringing that to your attention.
That's a great point, and we will commit to you right now that the night we're going to take a final vote, it will be posted.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Anyone else? Anyone else in the audience? Okay. To pass over for now until after executive session, item 7A, and that is consideration for recommended staff layoffs. And we're going to move to 7B, the first read policies. We're going to condense those. We're not going to read the entire policies. This is the first reading, and then they'll be brought back for the second reading. So, Ms. Kraeger?
The first policy there that we are looking at amending is Policy 1186, our Title IX policy. The last time we were here, we reviewed our Office of Civil Rights audit that was done for our CTE and high school program. There was a corrective action plan that came from that audit. It included some concise wording for some of our policies that we just have to amend. So I consulted with our attorney and brought this to the subcommittee policy meeting. And you can see there the 3 areas that we need to amend based on that OCR audit. I included the current policy and the policy with the amendments in the packet as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Kraeger. I do want to add as well that in our packet this evening, there, and we didn't take it off the consent agenda. I apologize, I intended to do that, but it got away from me. There was a voluntary compliance plan for the Office of Civil Rights, and that was per my request from 2 weeks ago. First of all, thank you very much. But secondly, you can see the tie directly from that plan into the changes to this policy. So that they do directly align, and it was reviewed in depth at the policy subcommittee.
Policy number 735, open forum.
So let me just pull it up on my screen very quickly. So in January of this year, the Rhode Island, and of course, speaking in public. ACLU, thank you. I know I've got a copy of it here. The Rhode Island ACLU came out with a report with regard to various governing bodies throughout the state, being town councils and school committees, and their assessment of how well we all are with carrying out transparent meetings and allowing for public input. So at that time, I had asked that it be on the agenda for the policy subcommittee meeting. We met in, I think it was February, and we did not get to this item just because of a time constraint, so we pulled it back up for the meeting that we had just recently. Policy 735 in our manual is the open forum policy. It's been in place for a number of years. It's been tweaked a couple of times. The lens that we looked at it through, however, was keeping in mind that ACLU report, right? We weren't very much, we were really no different than many other districts with the way that we have our open forum policy. But they were largely critical of everyone for certain limitations that public bodies were putting on the open forum portion of a meeting. So as a result, the recommendation that we're making is that we strike the time allotted for open forum will be 30-minute statement, that, you know, we do owe it to all of you to allow for comment as long as it takes. We will recommend that we continue to follow the 3-minute rule, especially on those evenings that we have a lot of public input. We want to give everyone a reasonable chance to have their say. And then secondly, the second change is to item number 6. It speaks to only addressing items not listed on the current agenda. Opportunities to comment on agendas are typically extended following discussion by members of the school committee. While all of that is very true, and we will continue to do that, it is made very clear by the ACLU that we really have no way to enforce that type of thing. So if a person wants to get up during open forum and talk about whatever they would like to speak to within the guidelines that are otherwise there, they are welcome to do so. And that is the only changes to this policy.
Thank you.
Does anyone have questions?
Not a question, but I have a comment. I was especially happy to see the change in the open forum, because I know my issue always, before I was on the board, was what if something was 7 or 8 on the agenda and I needed to leave? So I always wanted an opportunity during the open forum to be able to speak, even if the agenda item was later, just in case I had to leave, so that my comments could be considered. So I am especially happy to see that change made, because not everybody can sit through, 2 hours, however, long the meeting is, to wait for that agenda item. So I was especially glad to see that we're not going to limit it, and that you just get up and talk about whatever you can, because it's important to be able to get the feedback even if they can't stay for it.
That's true.
Thank you.
Before, oh, I'm sorry, Mike.
No, he has nothing, he said.
Okay. I just want to say additionally, if there are no other questions on the open forum policy, I'm going to ask that we table the reading of 995 professional support. When I was preparing for the meeting today, I really did come to the realization that I had not looked at it closely enough in the policy subcommittee meeting, and really do want to have another opportunity at that level to go through it in more detail.
Okay.
So if we could just table that item for tonight.
Okay. Tabled. Policy number 1189, use of therapy dogs. Dr. Sanchioni.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In your policy, as many of you are aware, the police have a fire dog, therapy dog that's well received by our students, comes into our schools and really brings a lot of smiles and happiness. And consequently, I've had a couple staff members come to me and are in the process of having their dogs trained to be therapy dogs, and can they bring them into our school system? So I researched what other schools are doing, and I want to present this policy to you so that we just have some guidance around anyone bringing a dog into our schools. And you can see it's basic stuff, that the dog would be, vaccinated, they would be under the control of the owner, wouldn't cause a disruption, would be supervised at all times. Parents would have the opportunity to opt out, knowing that the dog was in school at the time. The owner has insurance. We have to prevent allergic reactions, things of so forth. So it's a basic policy. It mirrors what many other school districts are doing, and I think if we're going to allow our staff members to bring their dogs in that qualify as a therapy dog, we should have a policy around it.
Any questions from the board? Mr. Dakotas? Nothing? Any questions from the audience? We'll move on to policy number 409, use of the buildings. Dr. Sanchioni.
So we've talked about this in the safety committee and so forth, and as you know, our current policy allows outside agencies to come into our building. At times, our custodians are there, but at other times, when our custodians are not there, they're allowed to pick a key up. They have our access codes, and when we had the safety assessments done at all schools, the number one recommendation by all the firms who went to our schools was you need to stop that. You can't have your safety codes out there in the public. You can't have keys out there in the public. So in essence, what this policy does is basically says if you're going to use our schools, one of our custodians has to be there. We're going to open the door for you. We're going to close the door for you. So in an essence of safety, that's what this policy does.
Any questions from the board? Mike?
Yes. Thank you. So one of the things I know is going to get asked by Tiverton Junior Basketball is when they are there and there is a custodian there, can the door stay unlocked so people can come into the building during practices, games? Or does someone come in and the door locks and every time it locks, someone has to come open the door?
So we allow the door to stay unlocked if they're supervising the entrance. If they're not supervising, the door stays locked.
So in complete honesty, that's not happened.
Right.
So do we need to, I know this is going to be a big deal for the basketball league, right? It just is.
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to figure out a way to make sure that someone's always at the door? I mean, they have to do that or else it's not going to work, right?
No, because then anyone can breach the building at any
Right.
time. That's the idea behind this. So we'll have to speak with them. As a matter of fact, it's on my note here to work with Tiverton Basketball and make sure
Okay.
they're aware of this policy after it goes through the second reading if you approve it. So we can work, I think, a system out between our custodian and their personnel to make sure our
Okay.
doors.
I know they had a doorbell for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still use it, so if someone came, they buzz the buzzer. Someone would have to open the door if someone wasn't at the door. And they do have that buzzer bell system, but sometimes like during a night when there's a
Sure.
game, sometimes there's dozens, if not 100 people coming in and
Right.
out of the building. So it's going to be an undertaking to figure that out. But in the essence of safety, it has to happen.
Right.
Mine wasn't, mine was just a bigger question. We're still kind of building use policy. We still, like, it's more around, and maybe this is a separate policy. We still are the way we were, I don't know, 20 years ago, where we don't charge anyone to use the building. And I just think, I wonder if we're not past that. That, we need, I understand the community owns them, I understand they're taxpayer assets, but where we're having all of these budget issues, I just wonder if we don't need to have a bigger discussion about really setting, I know in researching some of these schools, I happen to see several of the schools do have, it doesn't matter who it is, there's levels.
There's tiers, exactly.
Yeah, there's tiers, but everybody pays, and I just wonder if we're not there as a district, that
So we've looked at it, we've researched it, we have, it's really your direction. It would be a separate policy.
Okay.
If you want us to create it, we will. There wasn't an appetite for it in the past, but you're right, Ms.
No, I
Polish,
know.
times have changed.
Times have changed.
I have a question. Mrs. Polish, the ones that you've researched, some of the ones that you've researched, it's on. Do they charge in-district people, basketball, whatever?
Yes, it's
Not only-
tiered.
Because we do charge
Yeah.
for outside
No, it's
people to come in,
it's
but it's
everybody,
tiered. so-
everybody.
so it would
Everybody
probably be
pays
a
and it's
different rate
tiered.
or different
Yeah, so
cost,
maybe it's
yes.
$100 for in a Tiverton, and it's, $250
Right,
for a nonprofit, not local, and then it's another tier. But the ones I saw, and I think that's what you were saying, is they're tiered, but you charge everyone.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing else.
And I don't know what the committee's desire is. We haven't done that. I wonder if, are we there?
If you would like to ask the policy subcommittee to take a look at the draft that we looked at, we've looked at this
We have
topic over the last couple
multiple
of years.
examples we've looked at, and
We can pull up a draft and bring it to the committee again.
That'd be great.
Could I add to that we make sure that we're in communication with the Recreation Committee on that as well? Because I know.
on this
they-
policy?
Yeah, just for communication on that, because I know they've adopted some policies recently regarding field use, where there's same thing as Mrs. Polish was saying, about charging more organizations, but I don't think they're charging for recreational organizations.
And not junior basketball, none of the.
Correct. But they are for travel teams, club teams, tournaments, things like that. So I would just want to make sure whatever we do, we sort of try to sync with the municipal side as well, right? We should sort of at least have that communication.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Anyone in the audience? This young lady.
Hi, my name is Lori Reese Brooks at 301 Bugamash Road. And Diane, thank you, because that's exactly what I was going to say. As soon as I heard about the safety indoors, that's one of the things I had brought up, especially in the field that I'm in. I could never go work somewhere and not pay rent. Teaching Pilates, teaching the yoga, the farmer's market, I just think it makes sense. And maybe that could bring in more money with other businesses down the road as well. So I think we are definitely in that position, and I appreciate you bringing it up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shannon McNamara. I just had a question on the safety issue where there's keys out potentially in the community. Are we going to rekey the school? That's just, okay. So I just want, that was a little bit.
Already done, already
Okay,
refobbed.
okay, perfect. And just making sure, we've heard a couple of complaints about one door at the middle school not being latched properly. I know that there's a parent who's called a couple of times that just messaged me and asked me if I could say that as well. So I just wanted to say if we can just double check those. Thank you.
On that door, have we addressed that?
Has been addressed.
Yeah?
Yep.
Principal Satoli, yes?
Yep,
Addressed?
been fixed.
Okay, thank you.
Latches.
Press the button.
Sorry, rookie. I hate those people too. That drives me nuts. I'm so sorry. I'm so nervous. It's like a pet peeve. It's like it's a button. It's not that hard. I'm so sorry. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Anna Williams, 200 Fury Ave. I have a question about the dog. Let me just preface by saying that I actually like dogs and animals more than people. So this is nothing against it. I just have a question about insurance that goes with that, because obviously that has to get carried. So is that something that the school will be providing, or how does that go?
The owner would provide it, and that's what's in the
okay.
policy.
Okay, so there would be essentially no cost for the dog coming in? Well, that's even better. Okay, it was just a question.
Yeah, good question. Thank you.
Good
Thanks.
question. Thank you.
To answer that, I work in the insurance industry.
Who are you?
Suzette Aguirre, 15 Prospect Hill. I work in insurance, and usually that would be covered by homeowners, and you could ask for a certificate of insurance. That's where you would get it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So future meetings, I thought she was going to say something. We have a school committee meeting on Wednesday, May 29th. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion for a possible executive session, RIGL 42465A for legal advice on the FY25 budget.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
All those in favor?
Yes.
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 Just
Thank
for informational purposes, I am not here on the 29th.
Thanks for the warning.